Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating paradox of our time. We're going to look at how the highly optimized modern systems we rely on every single day are incredibly fast, yet dangerously brittle.
Think about a Formula One car for a second. It is a total masterpiece of engineering, right? It's designed to operate at absolute peak performance on a perfectly smooth track. But if you take that exact same car and drive it over a speed bump in your neighborhood, it completely shatters. That extreme brittleness is the hidden danger of our modern era. So what exactly happens when our perfectly tuned global systems face unexpected friction?
Here's what we're looking at today: the illusion of stability, what happens when money dies, fragile food chains, the AI debt wall, and finally, how to prepare for friction.
All right, let's jump into part 1, the illusion of stability and how optimization actually masks vulnerabilities. Moving right along to part 2, when money dies and reverting to barter and dollars. You know, when you hear a title like The Death of Money, it sounds kind of like theoretical doomsday stuff, right? Setting a really ominous tone about global shifts. But we actually don't have to look to a theoretical future to see this play out. To truly understand this, we have to face a hard truth. Extreme efficiency in our modern world is often just a mask for deep, systemic vulnerabilities. When everything runs on a total knife's edge just to maximize profit and speed, we lose our shock absorbers. In Venezuela, the literal death of money forced everyday citizens into some extreme workarounds just to survive on a daily basis. Get this, when the IMF projected that hyperinflation in Venezuela would hit an astonishing 1 million%, a completely bizarre logistical nightmare kicked in. The physical cash itself became incredibly scarce. And why? Because the Venezuelan government literally couldn't afford to pay foreign manufacturers to print and import the actual banknotes the citizens needed. The money was devaluing faster than the cost to produce it.
So, what do you do when the official system breaks down? You bypass it entirely. People had to adapt, and fast. Everyday citizens were basically forced into unofficial dollarization, scraping together whatever US dollars or euros they could find. When the physical cash was gone, they relied heavily on online transfers. And when the power grid failed, they reverted to pure old-school barter. We're talking trading yucca wafers and cacao just to get by. They even turned to digital solutions like cryptocurrencies to keep trade moving. It brilliantly illustrates how quickly a modern society can be forced right back into decentralized primitive economics.
Okay, part 3, fragile food chains, or the Formula One pothole parade.
Now, let's pivot away from macroeconomics to something you and I interact with every single week: the grocery store. This perfectly illustrates our Formula One car analogy from earlier. Our modern grocery system assumes that transportation, labor, and weather are always going to cooperate, which means there is virtually no buffer in the backroom of your local supermarket. Because of that, local stressors like an avian flu outbreak, extreme weather hitting a major rail line, or shipping disputes thousands of miles away in the Red Sea, they instantly ripple out. They create massive friction in a system that simply isn't designed to handle potholes.
Now, Purdue University data shows us something really fascinating here. The system doesn't need to completely collapse for families to feel the pain. You aren't going to see perfectly empty, apocalyptic shelves right away. Instead, the fragility shows up as sudden price sensitivity. The price jumps first, then you start noticing shrinkflation, and suddenly there are fewer brand options. Finally, the convenience we are so used to just slowly fades away. The margin for error is literally shrinking right in front of us.
Which brings us to part 4, the AI debt wall. This is where tech meets hard physical limits.
Right now, we are witnessing rapid AI token commoditization. Basically, the basic unit of computing power for AI is becoming dirt cheap. Chinese models like DeepSeek are achieving benchmark equivalence with US frontier models, but at an absolute fraction of the cost. We are talking pennies compared to dollars. And this hyper-competitive pricing directly threatens the massive revenue expectations that US tech giants are banking on to fund all their expansions.
And this commoditization creates a massive financial bottleneck. The major tech giants, the hyperscalers running these immense cloud networks, are taking on unprecedented levels of long-term debt to build data centers. Just think about this jump, from a historical average of $28 billion a year, all the way up to over $145 billion already in 2026. The danger here is a duration mismatch. They are taking on 10 to 30-year debt liabilities to build infrastructure for an AI revenue stream that gets cheaper every 18 to 24 months. That is a total recipe for severe systemic friction.
But wait, compounding that financial risk is a staggering physical bottleneck. The U.S. power grid is facing a projected deficit of 300 gigawatts by 2030 just to meet this AI load.
And you can't just throw money at this to fix it instantly. The interconnection queues take years, electrical transformers have massive manufacturing lead times, and grid capacity is a hard, physical limit that capital simply cannot bypass in the short term.
Adding some immediate friction to that tech vulnerability are two impending trade expirations coming up in November 2026. The expiration of the US-China tariff truce and the potential restriction of critical minerals from China, like gallium and germanium, that could instantly disrupt the physical supply chain we absolutely need for AI hardware. Our highly optimized tech future turns out to be incredibly dependent on a very fragile geopolitical present.
Finally, Part 5, Preparing for Friction, using the Wasted Ape framework. So, having analyzed all these massive vulnerabilities across money, logistics, and tech, how do we actually translate that macro anxiety into personal resilience? This three-layer framework breaks resilience down into sanity. Layer 1 is just about surviving a chaotic 72-hour weather or power outage event with enough water and ready-to-eat calories. Simple. Layer 2 acts as a shock absorber for your budget against inflation, scaling you up to 2 to 4 weeks of rotating pantry staples to handle supply wobbles without panicking. And finally, Layer 3 extends to 8 to 12 weeks with a solid freezer strategy, acting as a true buffer against systemic friction. It's really just about ensuring you buy yourself time and options when external systems inevitably wobble.
Ultimately, preparedness is about closing the loop on fragility. It's a fantastic idea to have a deep pantry, for sure, but that food is only useful if you actually have the redundant systems to store it safely, keep it from spoiling, and cook it when the grid goes down. True resilience means you pair your food supply with basic off-grid power and cooking redundancies. Basically, don't be food-rich and energy-poor.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you to consider how these invisible, deeply optimized forces shape our everyday lives. From the money in our pockets, to the food on our tables, to the AI powering our digital world, that Formula One car is speeding along. I ask you to look at your own life and ask yourself, if the systems we rely on are optimized for perfection, what steps will you take today to prepare for the inevitable potholes of tomorrow?